Another intellectual and spiritual heavyweight is our Dr. Corne Bekker, Dean of the Regent School of Divinity, and he joins me now to talk about the legacy of Ravi. Dr. Bekker, talk about the impact that his ministry had on the church and the world.
Thank you so much, George. Certainly a privilege to be here. So evangelicals left the intellectual sphere at the beginning of the 20th century, and one of the most extraordinary things happened. There were a number of voices that stepped back with great force, and Ravi was certainly one of the leaders amongst that movement that taught us that as Christians that believe in the inerrancy of God's word, that we don't have to step back from the academic conversation.
And for Ravi, his emphasis was about utilizing the duality of reason and knowledge in the Christian life. Why was that so important?
Well, it's really important because Ravi, of course, was following in a long line of scholars and theologians that have done this for centuries. If we think, for instance, about the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Colossians, says that Christ is the epitome of all wisdom. If we think of Anselm of Canterbury, 11th century church leader, that said, listen, you don't have to throw your faith out when it comes to reason. And in essence, he said, I believe in order to understand. And Ravi Zacharias followed in that long, great, faithful tradition of theologians that said, spirituality and study are not enemies, but friends. They work together.
Yeah, I'm curious, what are some of sort of the intellectual barriers that people, maybe cannot push through when accepting the tenets of the Christian message?
I think one of the primary issues has got to do about the nature of God's word. But Ravi did something really extraordinary. He spoke about having a comprehensive and a unified worldview that he structured around four great questions. Where do we come from? Why are we here? What is our purpose? How do we live a moral life? And finally, what is our ultimate destiny? And Ravi showed that together with a robust belief in God's word, as well as engagement with science, that these questions could be reconciled for Christians.
Last question here real quickly. How can churches and ordinary Christians take steps to learn more about the faith and then, more importantly, to defend it with conviction?
Three very important things that Ravi taught us. Number one, robust faith. Secondly, great moral courage to ask the deep questions. And lastly, to not shy away from engaging with people who do not